other than the Slatington News, what's there. But as I researched a little bit, I found that along Trot Creek, under the bridge, on both sides, that's where the first businesses in Slatington ever started. So I want to talk about these. This guy, Nicholas Kern, we probably heard of him, know about him, and this and that. He came over from Germany, and he bought the land from Ben Franklin. And of course, we'll talk about the sawmill he built, but Ben Franklin bought lumber from the sawmill, shipped it up to Whitesport to build Fort Allen. Ben Franklin also put some troops there. This is during the French and Indian War, just prior to the Revolution, when we were fighting the French and Indians to get the property. But anyway, so Ben Franklin also sent some troops there. Like some places you read it was called Kern's Fort, but it wasn't really a fort. It was just that it was protected by the Continental Army at that time. And Nicholas Kern's son was running it at that time. Nicholas Kern probably built it in the 1740s, and then by that time he had passed away, and his son William was running the two mills there. William was known as Truckner, or auf Deutsch Truckner, because he was a German jokester, kidder, so he had that nickname. So that's pretty much as an intro into these businesses in the 400 Creek in the 400 block along Trot Creek. That's another of that same barn, an older version. This, now we're going to come, I hope I can get this marker to work. It's up there. How do I get it down here? Trying to back up. Okay, this was a good marker too that talks about just what I said to you, the sawmill, etc. I'm confusing myself here. Robert, how did I get myself in this pickle? There, that's where I want to be. That's where I want to be. This is a sketch that's floating around in some history book tonight. I don't know who did it. I don't know when they did it. They sort of combined some things from this century to this century together to show some things. But anyway, give me my bag, would you please? Thank you, Albert. Every once in a while I do things right. Okay, here is this sketch. And we have the dam here, Trot Creek Dam. Everybody knows where Trot Creek Dam was. If you go up the bridge down to the right, it's not there anymore. We have some pictures of it, etc. But that's just where he built the dam, and he dammed it up, and he set up a sawmill there, and he set up, I know it's there. Well, it's on here now, but the sawmill started on the same side in the grist mill. They were all up at that end. If you're going up the hill, you look up to your right, that's where the dam was. And Brian Reed and Chris Thomas helped me just a few weeks ago. We went crawling around down there. And part of the dam is still there. The main part that was in the middle of the creek got washed away in a 1946 flood. So that's why that doesn't exist.
This is kind of why I'm here, because I own the house, a Chestnut and Scout house. The one with the creek going underneath it, with Welshtown Creek going underneath it. And I think that dam is right there.
Oh yeah, we just walked down from your house to the dam, right? Brian took us down.
Yeah, it's right there. So, and I've seen this sketch sketch before, so I was kind of wondering, and I'm really interested in some of the history of my house. I understand it was a
Well, which,
slate mill.
are you across the street? In that little house where your husband was out talking to us when we were there? Or did you buy Berlin's?
That's the Berlin house.
Well,
I'm on
I'm,
the corner of Chestnut, Scout House, and Welshtown, all come together right there. Welshtown
Chestnut,
Creek Road.
Scott House, and well, on the corner there.
Yep, the red one, it looks like a barn.
Oh, is that the one you were telling me about?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think that's an old Berlin house, but I'm not sure.
So the dam though is right there on Trout Creek, kind of, there's that. big
Yeah, we
green-
went down there, that's what we did. We went down to the Scott house and looked at it, because it was back farther than your house, but yeah.
Yeah, but see, when I see that dam, I can't think.
You'll see it, we got a couple of pictures for you.
What's that?
We got some pictures here for you.
Okay.
You'll see it. The kids that I grew up with, I didn't grow up in Slatington, so I never really used the dam or the facilities, but they tell me about, well, certainly fishing. I hear about fishing a lot. Swimming, ice skating I hear about. So it's a very popular spot, even in the 1900s, late 1900s. So anyway, so that's a sawmill there. Nearby it was the grist mill. And you know, to operate these mills, you had to dam up the water and then have a movable sliding door, more or less, and lift it up and let the water shoot out down the mill race. And the mill race is still there. It's still part of the original mill race going down to the sawmill. He left the sawmill, then went under the bridge and over to the grist mill. So we took pictures of that. So there, that's still part of it's stone or block, and is part of it pipes that they put in later, Brian? Yeah, they're pipes that they put in later.
What year is this from?
I don't know.
Because it says about 2 chestnut trees.
Well, I'll talk about more, but I don't know when this sketch
So in
was
other
done.
words, there were Indian wigwams.
There were Indian trees, Indians. Go up the bridge, and look down here to your left, and that's on the, no, that's on the right, yeah, on your left. Sure, there were Indians, Lenape Indians, I was taught in 8th grade. Yes,
Did she say that she lived in the house at the bottom of Scout House?
yes, on the corner.
Okay, right at the bottom. That was my grandfather's building, and he cut his,
Oh, it was Berlin, were you in the Berlin franchise?
What's that?
Shire.
Shire.
Oh, Shire, who's doing Shire?
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna talk about Shires.
Yeah, well, that was where he cut his
Yep.
tombstones.
So anyway, we got the 2 mills, we got Indians there, Native Americans, I'm sorry. We got the dam. See, they moved the factory here down, they moved the slate factory down on Factory Street, down where Mancy's fuel oil is there. For some reason, they had it down there a while. And they moved it back up to close to the bridge. And they moved the grist mill across the street, where you all know it was. Okay, let's get moving here, Tim. There's the dam. And you see that bridge, that train bridge, that trestle? Boy, I learned something here from Brian and Dave Berlin and so on. The train, you know underneath where the trail is. That was a train track, hauled slate down to the railway station. Then the Berkshire used it to go back and forth to school. Well, anyway, that had a chute over from Berlin's area there, from your ancestors' place there in the corner. The slate came down from Welshtown area. They had a track coming down, and then it would cut across the creek and tie in with the route that was going out to Emerald and Slate Hill and coming back down.
There's still some of the remnants on Welshtown Creek, because that's my property, of that. Not really the rails, but like the cement, and you can tell that there used to be something going
Yeah.
across there.
Okay, now let's see here. I'll never get done. That's another picture of the of that bridge. Now, where am I here? I didn't want to do this right away, but I guess I am. Yeah, I am. This is where the sawmill was. Go behind the house. You see the house there? That's the house at the bottom of the hill. That's the house there. It used to be Kern House. What was her name? Beulah Kern. We interviewed Beulah for our '89 book, history book, and she's gone now. But anyway, that's behind it, and that's where the sawmill was. And you've got to see some pictures of that. And so Brian and Chris, I went part of the way down, but they're younger and more sturdy than I am, so they went down, and those are gears. Those are to drive the mill. I'm trying to think of the word. But anyway, that's the kind of, you see, this is the type of wheels they use. They did not use the bucket wheel. Every time I think of a sawmill or a mill, I think of this big, where the water's dropping down and driving it around. Well, that wasn't what drove this. And the reason I say that is a couple of, that equipment's still left there. And there might be more covered up. So that equipment's still there. And when I show you the quick video of the sawmill now, not this sawmill, but a sawmill now, you will see this type of a wheel, because I couldn't find any quick and short ones that have this. But when I show you the grist mill has almost identical wheels as that on that they're using.
I'm surprised that's still sitting there, that nobody stole it, to tell you the truth.
Well, nobody can lift it.
Well, you get a bunch of guys, they could probably...
You mean them guys that used to go in and raid the store downtown?
No. I'm saying people will probably take it for metal. I'm surprised it's still there.
Anyway, maybe it won't become tomorrow now, but I don't know.
I don't even know where
But
it's
anyway, you know where it's at. Anyway, so there's a lot left down here of the mill. Okay, now let's progress. That's the sawmill. If you would look down off the bridge, that's what I remember seeing. When I would travel up and down the Main Street Bridge, that's what I looked down and saw. The sawmill. That building we just looked at, Brian, I think is connected with that white, you think so? White building there. And that's the sawmill back here at the dam. And somewhere in there is a dropping in the water to drive the gears. That's another picture of the creek and the dam. I mean the dam and creek. And there's a fella standing there. You see him? An old fella standing there. I zoomed it up when I looked at it, but I couldn't get it clear enough to. Maybe it's Alvin. What was his name? Alvin Kern. Yeah, maybe it's him. There's another picture of the Scout House. Of the sawmill. And another one. There even had some lumber there. We saw that. Now we're going to see, what do I have to press for this, Robert?
So this is on YouTube?
Yeah, no. I found a video on YouTube. Thanks.
You know how important a garage
You gotta
is?
live with it. We can't cut out the before and after on the YouTube.
Because the worker industry wasn't working for my buddies in the trades. These guys deserve a brand that actually stands behind them and listens to their needs. We're a little bit bigger now, and so is the garage.
See, at home I just cut it off, but Robert said we can't.
Local workers to hang out.
You know what, I don't think we can.
Slide it up, you mean, yeah, like I do at home, yeah. Okay, here we go.
We're off the grid, no electric power. It's like life was 200 years ago. I'm Herb Crosby. I'm a volunteer at the Maine Forest and Water Museum. We're actually 60 years old. A number of people who were passionate about the logging industry. They worked in forestry offices at the university. They wanted to somehow preserve Maine's logging history. Maine was built on water power. We had 2,000 water, they called them water poppers back then, But we had 2,000 in 1850. We didn't have electricity. This is what we use instead of electricity. This is really simple. It's incredibly simple. We need two things. We need water, we need a flow of water, but it needs to have a change of elevation. It needs to drop a few feet. And they didn't work too well in the wintertime. In fact, this was a seasonal mill. In fact, it depends very much on flow, and this stream will dry up in August. Well, I guess I've always liked mechanical things. I grew up that way and taught it for 35 years. These are just wonderful examples of mechanical engineering by people who have no university degree. If it wasn't for the virus,
Remember that saw. I got something to say.
thousands of school children here. They come in groups, getting away from school and seeing about water power, seeing about steam-powered Lombard log haulers, blacksmith shops, cooking over fires. I think we're pretty impressed that people were able to do so much using natural resources like water power. Even though it's only got about 3 horsepower, that's equivalent to 30 men working hard with a pit saw. That's really hard work. This would replace 30 people. There was so much work, I think they were thrilled to have some help. That's a great machine.
How do I stop this now? Well, it stopped.
I advanced it. I hit skip. There we go. All right, let's see if that works.
Well, the reason I asked you to remember that saw, I looked at that and I said, Ben Franklin would still be waiting for his lumber at the rate that that saw is going. But then I looked at some other videos that had the vertical saw, and they were about the same speed. Somebody got smart and had a dual action to saw. Then I did find later ones with circular blades cutting. But the reason I read someone was interviewed and they remembered their ancestors saying, yep, that sawmill blade was so slow it would go up in the morning and come down in the afternoon. So anyway, I thought that was funny. Anyway, sawmill. Okay. We all know what this is. This is the grist mill. Do some of you are there some of you here that are young enough that you don't remember that? Okay. And driving past that all the time, up and down Slatington, you just thought it would be there forever. Sort of like the fireman's statue. You think that's going to be there forever. But it didn't stay forever. The county tore it down. And what year was that?
1981.
81. Michael Anthony just showed me a photo he took of when the roof was torn off. So in the partial razing or demolition of the sawmill. We're going to talk more about the sawmill. A.J. Kern, his grandfather, I guess, Jonas Kern, built that in 1850. And there's a bill of some of it, corn, I don't know, chop, corn, a lot of corn. Sawmills were usually used for corn, to make corn meal, or for wheat, to make flour. And then some animal fodder, they tell me. Okay. There's a barn that was next to it, down towards the creek. And I looked this up. I magnified grain, flour, and I couldn't read the last word. So there's in combination. Check the car or truck. Mr. Betts, you recognize that vehicle?
No, I don't.
No, no.
What's the big building behind, between the two doors?
Mushlets Church. The Baptist is toward the front. There's another view. Robert donated this to me. He said, I said, I have too many pictures. No. He said, use it. This is when they tore down the bridge and were replacing the bridge there. I don't know what year that was.
1901.
Huh?
1901.
1901. I know the original one was supposed to be built in 1826. And, but this is the one with all the big blocks under that they threw away. And Brian tells me that some of them were hauled up there, the reservoir up there too, stored. So that's that, but it shows you the grist mill too. But you see there is no nice fancy house in the corner there. That house must have been torn down to build Beulah's house, Beulah's father's house. I saw this photo and I didn't think anything of it because it was always there. If you want to go from the current house at the bottom across Main Street to the grist mill, this is where the mill race ran under. Comes down from the dam in the mill race or in pipes and goes in under there over to the, this is right after that gearing that we showed you. So, but that's not there anymore. And since they did put the new bridge in, nobody remembers. I know he remembers it, and I know any of us that walked there. But I always thought that was neat. There's another ad for him. And before I hit this video, there were several owners on the grist mill after the years. Howard Kern owned it. That's a grist mill. Another Kern descendant, and he sold it. And I'll get into that. He gave it to the county. Well, gave it to the borough. They didn't want it, so he gave it to the county. And the county said they're going to fix it up and all this stuff. Well, they changed their mind. And anyway, but before that happened, Ambrose Surface was in there. Oscar Van Norman was in there with the beverage distributor. Okay, so I'm going to leave the grist mill now. I'm going to go. This is a video of the grist mill, and I want you to remember look for one thing. Somewhere in the video, the guy that's running the things gives us a saying, a proverbial type saying that I never would have imagined this is where it came from. But see if you pick up on that. That's not the reason for the mill, but I mean, I just. Here, Rap. Oh, you gotta do that. Thanks, Mike. That's okay. This is short.
Visit the mountains of North Georgia.
And we have one stop that may be of interest. You will find an operational grist mill in the foothills of White County. The Nora Mill Granary first opened in 1876. You'll find it sitting alongside the beautiful Chattahoochee River in White County, just outside of Helen.
140 years old. It is the same way that it was done 140 years ago. We are still completely water powered, completely operational, same stone, same turbine. We are producing a whole grain products, all done in house, nothing added, and no preservatives, none of that. And it's good quality product. And to say that we're still doing it the way they were doing
There's some gears.
We're water powered right off the river behind us.
Where do we get our corn? We get it from Kentucky. We need the same corn every time. Unfortunately, in Georgia, there's only a handful of people that do food grade corn. Most of it's agricultural ethanol. And ours has to be dried different for the aflatoxin. We need a certificate of analysis with our corn. It's not like it used to where everybody brought corn in here. There's nobody around here that grows enough corn. Last fiscal year, we did almost 350,000 pounds of corn.
Martin has been helping produce grits from corn at the mill since the 1980s.
Right now we're grinding grits on a 1876 working grist mill. It's powered by an actual water turbine from Rome, Georgia, 1876 outside. 50 times more powerful than a power wheel. The stones are from the Marne River Valley in France, 1876. These are pink granite from the Marne River Valley. The corn is brought over up grain elevators to my hopper, drops in via the shaker, goes in between the two stones. The two stones I can adjust to make it coarser or finer. And you never let the two stones touch. You never want the two stones to touch. So once I get it down to the proper depth, I start checking the smell. I smell to make sure that the two stones aren't touching. I'm smelling for the grindstone. The only way to make the stones last is by keeping your nose to the grindstone. Stay focused, and everything will be all right. But you have to keep your nose to the grindstone.
Door mills in the Nakuchi village has become a regular tourist stop for many folks that spend time in the mountains. Tommy Martin spends a lot of his time talking to visitors and tourists as they stop at Door Mills. He said telling the story of the mill and how it still works is the favorite part of his job.
And it was just a natural fit for me, and I'm just real blessed to be around. I got to work for Grandpa too, who was born in 1897. A lot of my local history, if you want to know about history, come here and ask me. I get to talking about the mill, and if the people are wanting to really hear the history, I'll bother them with it. And if not, they sort of start walking away from me. But a lot of the history I learned, I've spoken at the Historical Society, but a lot of that history was from the old timers. And I've worked now for 4 generations of this family.
Two things here. Nose to the grindstone. I had no idea when I looked at this video that was on there, and of course I didn't care where it came from, but I thought it was so unique that that's where that came. The second thing I want to say before I leave the grist mill is those milling stones. Another video I had it better, but it was too long. Those are big, I don't know, 6-inch thick. He said granite stones, and they're grooved, and only the top one grinds, moves. The bottom one just sits still, and it grinds it and this and that. And there's one of those down there at Slatington right now. If you on the other side of the bridge where this barn was, where the grist mill, if you go out there, they've taken one of the stones there and they planted a flower in the middle of it, but you just walk back there and you can't help but see it. I found a record that when they demolished the mill, they said there were 2 stones they found in the basement, 2 milling stones. All I've found so far is that one. That doesn't mean the other one's not covered over. And they said there were some of those turbine gears there too. So, now finally, my last comment here. Oh, incident, there are a lot of these mills that have been restored and operating throughout the country. There's some down in Whitehall, Haynes, and is one that are operating now, and you can go see, and they make them in the gift shops. How I wish. But anyway, there's a lot of them around. There we go. That's good. Thanks, Mike. I saw this on a map many years ago. I looked at it. It's an aerial view of around Slatington. And I don't know what I was looking for, but I came across it. Where in the heck is this? I don't know anything about a Kern Mill Park. The heck with it. I've got other things to do. Now when I'm researching these businesses by the Kerns on the creek, I see it again. Here, this is a park, 12.7 acres, that the Kerns gave to the borough. They didn't want it. The borough gave it to the county. County promised in every written thing they were going to put a park there with benches and tables and a walking trail. Well, the walking trail is there, not through this though, through the venture group, of course, but the St. Harry's Trail. But that never happened. So they gave it back to the borough in around 2000. So the borough has this property. all around there. Borough owns that. And it would be nice. So if you're history oriented and you have any power or interest, do what you can. It would be so nice to restore that. You don't have to buy the land, it's there, the borough owns it. Have to be cleared, there's brush and there's some trees there, but they can make some kind of a walkway. I don't know how you get, could they go from one side of the river to the other, Brian? No, I meant from one, oh, no, I don't mean across the creek. I mean, it's too closed in there. At one time, we could walk to both of them, so I don't know, put a bridge across. It'd be nice to put a bridge across to the trail maybe, too. I don't know. But there's a lot of potential there. It would be great if we could rebuild the 2 mills, but that's pretty much out of the question. But so I don't know, I think it would be, Slatington would have something to really rely on, because that's where it started. You know, Slate came later. We always talk about, we made our name Slate. This was called Kernsport at one time because of the Kerns. But this would be, and 4 or 5 of Nicholas Kern's sons served in the Revolutionary War. So next year's the 250th, I thought, man, we ought to be able to push that and brag about that, and show people that, show our kids that, because after we're gone, I mean, you're not going to remember. Maybe there'll be apartment buildings there or whatever. So you're going to remember our heritage. And do you know where that is? I see some people not sure.
That's
okay.
Diamond and Chestnut. That intersection right there of Diamond and Chestnut.
Yeah. This is a creek here. Yeah.
And now it's a green.
This is on the other side. This is North Street or whatever it is, Uptown. Okay. Any other questions?
That was kind of one of the reasons why the county board.
All right. So I'm going to next speak about the Berlin Builders Supplies. Brothers Allen and Howard operated a building supply business in Slatington. The Berlin Building Supplies was first started on West Church Street in Slatington near the National School Slate Company at the time. Allen's son, Franklin, took over the business, which was later then moved to the 454 West Chestnut Street on Welshtown Road. Franklin owned and operated the business until his retirement in 1964. Here I have a picture of the Berlin family. And here is like an aerial overview. What do we have on here? And so all of the buildings here are labeled on this aerial supply. We're mainly going to talk about the Berlin business, but as labeled here, Building A was Libby's coal yard, and that building is still standing today. Building B is the Berlin's building supply barn, and that building is no longer there. It's been torn down in sections. Building C, Berlin's barn, and there was a 2-car garage, is still standing, but it's in very poor condition. And then D, along the roadway here, was the Berlin's house, which burnt down. The building labeled E was the first office and garage for the Berlin's Building Supply Company. And building F is the cement warehouse, which is now a 2-story home that's built over the creek, which I'm assuming is your property that you've been asking about.
Yeah, I would love to get more information on that.
And the building labeled G was the Donald Davis coal yard. And then of course we have the roads here, Scout House Road, And Welshtown Road is right here. J is the Polly's residence, and K was the Libby's residence. My husband, his family,